Performatives are a special kind of speech act. Performatives are speech acts in which the utterance we use actually expresses the speech act we're performing. In effect, the locution and the illocution match. So in an example like, I promise to be there, you're making a promise and you're using the word promise. Whereas, I'll be there is also a promise. So in the case of the performative verb, the illocution is expressed by the meaning of the verb. The same is true in the other examples. Number 2, I admit I was foolish. In saying that, I'm admitting. I'm making an admission. I could say I was foolish, and that would also perform the speech act of admission, but it wouldn't be a performative. A performative is a speech act in which the locution matches the illocution. I warn you, this gun is loaded. That utterance is a warning. The speech act is expressed by the word used. This gun is loaded. Well, clearly that's a warning, but it's not a performative because the words used don't express the speech act. And likewise, I apologize. When saying the words I apologize, we are performing an apology. We could say I'm sorry, and that would also perform an apology, but it wouldn't be a performative. That's the point. Okay? Let's look at some other examples. Okay? So there is something wrong with each of these examples that makes them fail as a performative. Okay? So in the first example, if I were to say to you, ti prometto di pulire la cucina. Well, if you don't speak Italian, then this is going to have no effect. So the first and most obvious point is that a speech act has to be in a language that both the speaker and the hearer understand. Kind of obvious, but it's important to make clear. I promise I'll punch you in the nose. Well, that doesn't really sound like a promise, right? And in fact, promises are generally a benefit, a good thing for the listener. So this would not be a well-formed promise. I promise that the sun will come up tomorrow. Well, the sun will come up tomorrow no matter what, whether I promise it or not. So in order for a true promise to be performed, it has to be something that won't automatically happen already. I promise that I started the washing machine. Well, the washing machine has already been started, so there's no promise to make. In fact, in order for a promise to be in effect, it has to be in the present tense. I promise that you'll make a wonderful dessert. Well, I can't really promise what you will do. In order for it to be a true promise, the action expressed has to be performed by the speaker. It could be I, it could be we, but it has to include the speaker. I promise that I'll jump over that skyscraper if I pass my exam. Well, that's not physically possible. So another property of a true promise is it has to be something that the speaker is capable of doing. So each of these fails as a performative for different reasons. Okay? Let's look at some other examples. So let's just read through a list of examples and observe that some of these are performatives and some of them are not, and then discuss why. So first we have, I admit I was wrong. I think I was wrong. I know I was wrong. Or group 2, I apologize to you. I amuse you. I flatter you. And number 3, we promised to leave. He admits he was silly. I warned you to stop. Now, each of these 3 sets of utterances contains just one performative. In fact, the A example in each group is a performative. Each one is in the present tense. It includes the subject I or we, and it includes an illocutionary verb, a verb expressing the illocutionary force. So I think I was wrong doesn't really quite work. And I know I was wrong also doesn't work, mainly because these are not action words. To perform a speech act, the verb has to be some kind of action. In to, I amuse you, I flatter you, these are actions, but they're not illocutionary verbs. They aren't expressing an illocutionary force. And in 3, he admits he was silly. Now, admits is an action verb, and it's an illocutionary verb, but in this case, the subject is not I or we. The subject of a speech act that is a performative must be the speaker of the utterance. So it must include I or we. In C, I warned you to stop. Well, warn is an illocutionary verb. It's an action. The subject is I, but in this case, the verb is in the past tense. To be a true performative, it has to be in the present tense. Okay? So each of these groups of words includes a performative, and then some examples of utterances that are not performatives for the particular reasons we've just mentioned. Okay? So to summarize, what we've seen so far in speech acts is that utterances, language used in actual contexts, are speech acts. We use language to perform a particular function. And there are 3 elements we can identify to a speech act. There's the locution, the utterance itself, the words that are spoken aloud. There's the illocution, which is the speaker's illocutionary force, the speaker's purpose or intent in uttering this particular expression. And then there's the perlocution, or the perlocutionary effect. It's the effect on the hearer that has happened as a result of hearing the words spoken by the speaker. Okay? And then finally, we've just seen that there's a special case of speech acts known as performatives, in which the illocution and the locution match. Okay. All right. We'll be moving on in the next video to learn about classifying different types of speech acts. Thanks.